Hello, welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be having a look at creating a nice, simple, smooth but neat intro in Adobe After Effects. This is quite a basic one, so it's nothing too complex, but we'll be having a look at using masks, or using keyframes, the text tool, and a little bit of colour grading. So as I say, it's nothing too crazy, but it's just a few good things to get you started with using After Effects and making some kind of simple animations. So let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, of course, is click New Project. Then you want to click New Composition. And let's just call this Introduction. Let's just, make it nice and simple. So obviously, depending on what resolution you're used to working with, so I record my videos in 4K, so I'm just going to basically match that. So I think that's fine. And obviously you can use 1080p or 720p or whatever you use. What's easiest for you is absolutely fine. So generally, I tend to match the frame rate of the camera that I use. So I'm going to stick with 25 frames per second, and the duration I'm going to make about 10 seconds, as it's kind of it's just a sort of good kind of comfortable duration. It's not too long, not too short, So yeah, background color black. Click OK, and you then want to come up to Layer, then down to New, and then across and down to Solid. And so I'm going to call mine BG just for background, and I'm going to make it a sort of dark cyan sort of colour. So you can copy my X if you want, my X decimal code. It's just a nice kind of backdrop to use for the kind of theme that we're going for. So we're kind of going for a nice sort of futuristic kind of sci-fi look. So yeah, if you click OK there, then click OK here. I'm going to be using a kind of blueprint texture sort of background. So of course I'm going to put a link in the description for this. Yeah, it's just a nice kind of backdrop for your sci-fi kind of themed intro that we're going for. So if you drag that into your project tab, just into this area here, and this is just where you keep all your files. So then if you drag that into the timeline just above your background solid, and although it's difficult to see because the color is quite similar to the sort of theme color of After Effects, but if you mouse over, you can see these red kind of these sort of corner lines. That will sort of show you where the edge of the canvas is, or the edge of the project is. So yeah, you want to make sure this fills this fills the entire project, ideally. So if you press S on your keyboard with this image selected, this will bring up your scale options. So for me, because I'm using 4K, I've worked it out to be about 150. Obviously that may be different for you, but yeah, you can obviously just play around with it and just sort of see what works for you. But as I say, I'm gonna be using 150. That's pretty much perfectly to scale. I mean, obviously it's a bit over on the top and the bottom. That's fine because it's obviously not the exact same resolution, as long as it goes over the edge of the project area. That's fine. So I'd say if you scale it to fit up to 100%, just means you can just obviously see everything within the borders of the project. So what you want to do now is, let's say, just minimize that. You make the mode overlay. Depending on your screen brightness, of course, this might be quite difficult to see, but it just means it's a nice sort of subtle kind of texture for your background. So once you've done that, you then want to come up to your text layer, Again, I'm going to be using prime time, so if you haven't already seen my previous tutorial, I use the same font in it. So if you want, if you go back to that, I would have left a link in the description to download that one. And for the colour, I'm going to make a kind of sort of goldy, sort of orangey colour. It just works with that kind of darkish, cyany sort of blue colour. So again, obviously you can copy the hex there. Click OK. And for my size, I'm going to make it 144. It's a kind of it's just a good size for the resolution we've got here. Just as I say, the same with the duration. It's not too big, not too small, you know. So if you click somewhere around the middle, and obviously you can type whatever you want, but I'm going to type obviously the name of my channel. And so once you've done that, you then want to come up to your move tool, and then you want to come up to a line over here, and you want to center that horizontally and vertically. So once you've done that, you then want to come up to layer, down to new, across and down to shape layer. So then you want to zoom in to about 100% just so you can see what's going on. And you want to come up to your pen tool. You want to hold down shift and click sort of somewhere around the top right, or no, the right of your top, the top left of your text, just somewhere around here, I'd say. So if you hold down shift, click there, and then you want to click somewhere around here. Yeah, I'd say around here. And then you want to, with shift still held down, you want to come down to around here. Sort of, you want to make it the same kind of length as the top bit. So with your move tool selected, if you just click down here in this blank space, you can sort of see it a bit more clearly, and I think that looks fine. So if you then hold down Control press D to duplicate that, press R on your keyboard to bring up the rotation settings, and you want to make that 180. So that'll just bring that to the symmetrical side, basically. Yeah, so the bottom right corner. So now that you've got that, you now want to be focusing on the animation of these shapes. So if you just hide your text layer for now, come to around 1 second, you want to select both your shape layers, press P on your keyboard. You then want to, with still both shape layers selected, you just center both these horizontally and vertically, and that will bring them to the center, and that will give you this nice square. So you then want to set keyframes for both the position of both of these shape layers, and you then want to come to 1 second and 13 frames and set some new keyframes. You then want to start with this shape layer here, and you want to bring this up. Now I'd say if you show your text layer again, just so you can see where you're putting them, as we're gonna basically create a kind of reveal animation here. So if you just make sure these are on the outside of your shape layer, of your text layer, sorry, I think that's fine. So then if you grab your other shape layer and and bring that around the same sort of area as this one is from the bottom, and yeah, I'll bring that just a little higher, and yeah, I think that looks fine. Yep, I think that's fine. So as you can see, you get a nice sort of smooth kind of basic animation there. It's nothing too crazy. So then what you want to do with your text layer still on view or on show, if we again start with this layer, go ahead to 2 seconds, and then do that, and put them in place. Yep, so that's fine for that one. And then again, obviously, do the same for this one. And I think that looks okay. As you can see, there's a little bit of weirdness going on here. So what you're going to want to do to resolve that is you want to click. Yeah, so if you click around here and go to keyframe interpolation, you want to change the auto Bezier or Bezier to linear. Click OK. You then want to click your other shape layer and do exactly the same. So keyframe interpolation, change auto Bezier to linear. So you're going to want to do the same with all the keyframes. And then obviously you're going to want to do the same with the other shape layer. Yeah, so I'm just double checking them, just making sure I've done this to all the keyframes. Yeah, so there you go. So that should be nice and smooth now. It should be nice and sort of straight rather than... Yeah, there you go. So it's just a nice sort of... Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so now that you've got that animation pretty much sorted, you now want to start animating your text. So if you come to, let's see... Yeah, if you come to about 1 second 13 frames, sorry, and then if you just cut off the beginning up to that frame, just means the text isn't shown until that point. So what we're going to do now is first, if you go to 2 seconds, and then if you come up to your rectangle tool, if you make it around the same distance these sort of the corners of these shape layers are to one another, and that just means all your text is shown. So if you expand your mask options, set a keyframe to 2 seconds where it is, and then if you come back to 1 second and 13 frames, and then if you select your move tool, click outside of your text, and then if you just basically bring these points of your mask all the way to the corners of these shape layers. So you want it to be around this sort of area, so you want to make sure you resize it to that. Yep, okay, I reckon that's fine. So then, as you can see, that will obviously animate with the shape layers. So it comes out and then like that. So if we just play that back, it would look a bit smoother, so you can see the text appear when you... So it's just a bit subtler, so it just looks a bit smoother and a bit more natural. So yeah, pretty much all you're going to want to do now is just reverse this animation. So I'd say I'd make the animation about 2 seconds. So if you go from 2 seconds to 4 seconds, and then if you basically all you want to do now is just copy these and paste these keyframes in reverse. So it's pretty much just a matter of selecting this keyframe, copying it and pasting it to there. doing the same with this one to this shape layer, and then doing the same with this one to this text layer. So then you want to come to 4 seconds 13 frames and do exactly the same. And then to 5 seconds. And do exactly the same there. So as you can see, that should reverse. Though one thing we are missing, of course, is cutting off the rest of this text layer. Let me just double check. Yep, that's fine. Just make sure it's in the right position. So that will, it'll just get rid of it, basically, it'll just disappear. So that's fine. So now the last thing really for this part that you'll need to do is the rest of the animations of this shape, of these shape layers. So if you come to the top shape layer, hold down Control, press A to select them all, minimize one of them, and that will minimize all of them, just to make it a little clearer and a little tidier. If you select both your shape layers, just Control click and press U on your keyboard. Yeah, there you go. And then if you minimize the shape 1 and then transform. In fact, actually, I think, yeah, that's the shape 1. Shape 1 is actually what we're going to be editing. So you can open that up again. You can maximize that again. So if we just get it in position first, we go to about 1 second, and you then want to click Add and then Trim Paths. So if you just bring that outward, yeah, if you just expand that, I mean, then if you set a click keyframe to your start setting, and then go to 13 frames and set this to about 99%. I'll basically just turn it into a dot. So of course you want to do the same for the other shape layer. So add trim paths, expand it, come to 1 second, add a keyframe to your start setting, come back to 13 frames, set it to 99%, and as I say, as you can see, they are now dots. If you come back to 0 seconds, 0 frames, if you now, so minimize all of this, so remember Control A to select them all, click this arrow. So if you select both of your shape layers now, press P on your keyboard to bring up obviously the position settings. If you bring up your title action safe option, so it's this little sort of crosshair icon here, click your title action safe option, come nice and close, and what you want to do, if you just basically move the shape layer until this top right purple square is right in the middle of that crosshair. Actually no, that's the other one, sorry. The bottom left one. Just make sure it's right in the middle of the crosshair. Okay, and then obviously you want to do the same with the other one, except the top, with the top left square. Okay. So if you just fit up to 100% now, just click away somewhere here, turn off your title action safe. I'd say actually, yeah, if you just zoom all the way in as you were, 100 to 100%. Yeah, that's fine. So now you can see their dots. So here they come out. Oh, So yeah, if you move these keyframes, these keyframes to 13 frames, and then if you copy them and paste them to 1 second, oops, you have to do it we have to do them one by one, and that should fix your problem, if obviously you've got this problem, because you're following my tutorial, of course. Yeah, there you go, that's fine. So obviously now you want to copy these keyframes in reverse, as you did with the other ones. So if you just have them both selected, press U on your keyboard, and as you can see, you've got, so if you just start off with your trim paths keyframes. So if you start with this one here, copy, and then come to 5 seconds, paste that in there, copy this one, paste that in there, and then 5 seconds 13 frames. Just copy those, paste those in there. Obviously do the same with the other shape layer. To 6 seconds, copy and paste. So that should animate in reverse. Yeah, there you go. Just double check. Yep, that's fine. Brilliant. So yeah, we watch this all the way through just to make sure it's all nice and smooth. Obviously we have to wait for it to render, so we'll watch it again once it's finished. There you go. So that's the basics of that. If we highlight all of our keyframes now, actually, we want to make sure we got all of them. So if we press U on your keyboard, so that's fine. It's just good to double check. And then if you press F9 on your keyboard, that will ease all your keyframes, so it just makes the animation a bit smoother, a bit less rigid. So yeah, let's have another look. So yeah, it does look a bit smoother, doesn't it? There you go. Brilliant. So now, I think the last thing to do is to fade these dots in. So what we want to do is we want to select both shape layers and our text layer, and we want to shift them up about 13 frames. So we just come here, and if we just come all the way to the end just to make sure they don't go over these shape layers, and if we select them all, hold down Control and Shift and press D, and that will split them, sort of duplicate them or duplicate them. And then if we delete the newly split layers, so the sort of other side, the right side of them, you know what I mean. So yeah, that just means it's just sort of nice and cleanly cut off. Select both your shape layers again, extend them back to 0 seconds, and if you select them both again, press T on your keyboard, that'll bring up your opacity options. So yeah, actually if you come back to 13 frames, then set those keyframes there, and then come back to 0 seconds, and then set them to 0. And then obviously you can easily use those keyframes as well. And then obviously do the same here. From 6 seconds and 13 frames. Set both keyframes. Go to 7 seconds. And of course make them 0. And there you go. So let's see if that looks okay. Yeah, zoom out a bit. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So this is the end of part 1. In part 2, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through some glitch effects just to make it look a bit nicer, a bit more sci-fi, a bit more interesting. And we're going to be having a look at some color grading as well, just to basically add to that. So there you go. Now you have a nice, neat, smooth looking animated intro for your videos. So, of course, as I say, if you're interested in learning anything else like this, VFX related, graphic design related, or just filmmaking in general, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications bell on to get regular updates. And, you know, obviously if you enjoyed this video, give it a like if you want. If you didn't like it so much, leave a dislike, that's cool. And, you know, if you have any questions or any constructive criticism, feel free to leave it in the comments. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.